Raven Moody back again. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. Before I get into this video, make sure that you are liking, commenting, and subscribing. If you have not hit the notification bell, make sure you do that as well. That way you get notified every time I post a new video. So this video is something I'm really excited about. It actually was something that I recorded semi on accident. So originally I was just trying to get my thoughts out so that I would be able to go back and remember everything when it was time for me to make a live video. But as I was doing it, I just decided to continue talking and make it a podcast style video instead. Now I will say that this video is something that's based off my personal experience, and therefore everybody may not agree, but for me, for many years, I had very unrealistic expectations when it came to relationships and what to expect. And so I think sometimes unrealistic expectations can hinder you from really getting into a healthy or long-term relationship because you are looking at things from the wrong perspective or expecting things that again are unrealistic. So stay tuned. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you guys soon. Hey family, so this is going to be just a quick talk about dealing with people in regards to a romantic standpoint and not having unrealistic expectations in a spouse. So first I want to say that this came from me just reflecting on the fact that for so many years I had a very unrealistic expectation that God was going to send me a knight in shining armor. And because I'm in ministry and I know that based on words I've received that he also is in ministry as well, that he would be perfect and that he would have very minimal issues and he would just be very well put together. But that is a very unrealistic view of life and of people. And over the years and over time, and especially recently, I've learned that again, that's very unrealistic. And that can keep you, possibly hinder you and keep you single. And so first I want to say that I want to give a disclaimer and say I'm not by any means saying put up with foolishness. I'm not saying settle. I'm not saying deal with broken people, because hurt people hurt other people. And so you both want to be as healed as possible, because when you deal with someone who is as whole as possible as they can be at that time, when things occur, when things hit the fan, when trouble arises, they're able to look at things with a little bit more of a clearer view versus someone who is still very broken, very hurt, looking at things through a jaded lens and handling things from that jaded lens. And they may sometimes not even be willing to compromise or deal with it in a healthy, from a healthy standpoint, because again, they too, they're broken and they see things from that broken standpoint and may not be able to logically or healthily see the situation. With that said, I believe that God will give us or introduce us to people who that we have a grace to cover, because as a spouse you should cover your spouse, cover that person in prayer, cover that person when things hit the fan, and not, feel the need to go out and spread it with everybody else and things like that. Like, you will have the grace to cover the person that God has for you. And when I say that God has for you, I'm not saying that there's one person that you can marry. I don't believe in soulmates. And I don't believe that God picks our spouse necessarily, but I do believe that God will show you if somebody's not for you. So if God can show you who's not for you, he can definitely confirm what he is ordaining and what he is allowing in your life. Now let's go ahead and get on into what it is that made me say this, what it is that made me come and talk about this specific topic. Now, and again, for a very long time, I had a very unrealistic expectation of what relationships were supposed to look like, marriage is supposed to look like. And through me actually having relationships or friendships with the opposite sex, that's why I learned to have a realistic expectation of a spouse. Because, so I will say I have 3 friends, I would say are close friends, that are male and are, true men of God. One is a pastor, one is a deacon, and one of them just truly loves the Lord. But something that I've learned in getting to know them one-on-one, outside of group settings, because of course, people act a certain way within group settings, but when you get to know someone and have a personal relationship with someone, you're able to see them, kind of raw and uncut behind the scenes. You're able to see them in their totality as you get to know them. So with that said, I have those 3 friends, and then I also have male acquaintances in the body of Christ, and not too many. I think there's probably about, between those 3 and then the acquaintances, there's probably about 6 that I would say, 5 or 6 that I would say between our close friends and acquaintances. But again, all of them are true men of God. All of them really love the Lord. But I also am able to some extent, see them for who they are, and that they're not perfect. And it reminds me of David, who David had was a man after God's heart. We hear that all the time, like David loved the Lord. David was a man after God's own heart, but David had flaw after flaw after flaw. He would fall and he would ask God for forgiveness, and he would repent, and then he would get back up again, and at some point he would fall short right all over again. But yet we know that he was a man after God's heart. And that's the same with us. We can love the Lord, but we're not perfect. And so I have learned by having male friends that nobody's perfect. I think you see things a little bit differently when the friend is a female, because you're just kind of like, you don't necessarily have to look at them. Not, how do I put this? I don't want to say look at them in a romantic way, because I don't see my male friends in a romantic way, but I think you just look at your female friends a whole lot differently than you see your male friends. I guess what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we tend to extend a little bit more grace to people of the same sex as us versus people of the opposite sex. I'm not really sure why we do that, but I think we hold the opposite sex to a little bit of a higher standard, because we don't necessarily see life from their perspective, so to speak. But I could be wrong, but that's, I guess, what I was just trying to get at. So anyways, what I'm saying is, when you can see someone who really loves the Lord, and you still see that even though they love the Lord, that they're not perfect, and they're of the opposite sex, it helps you realize that no matter how much your spouse loves the Lord, that they're also human. They're also going to have flaws. And so that has kind of helped prepare me for my spouse. And with that said, you have to determine before you even meet your spouse what your deal breakers are. And I say before you meet your spouse, because if you don't know what your deal breakers are, you don't know what your standards are before you meet them, you will put up with anything and then later determine, oh, I can't handle this, or I can't deal with this. So you need to know up front what it is that you are and are not willing to deal with. Now, I will say, there was a man of God, a minister, pastor, whatever, and he had red flags galore. He had a lot of broken places, a lot of deal breakers for me, because again, he was a broken person. And so again, like I said earlier, you have to deal with somebody who's as whole as possible, because if they're not whole, they're going to hurt you, or you're going to get hurt in the process of trying to help them, to try to cover them, things like that, because they're seeing things from a broken standpoint. Something else I learned from that situation is that accountability looks like criticism when a person is not willing to own up to their issues, their faults, their flaws, things like that. And so again, this person, because they were broken, they weren't able to see their flaws. They weren't able to see their faults. It was like, well, you're hard on me. And in my opinion, I was never hard. I may say, hey, you shouldn't do that. That's not cool. Why are you talking to them like that? But they weren't willing to own up to their issues. But when you're dealing with the person who's whole and is willing to say, you know what, you're right, it may not be immediately that they're willing to own up to it, but they're going to realize that they got some things that they need to work on, and they're going to be more willing to deal with those things versus to turn and point the finger back at you, or be in denial about whatever they may be dealing with. So again, I have learned through my friendships that nobody's perfect. Just the same as I'm not perfect, and I need grace from God. My spouse is not going to be perfect, and they're going to need grace from God and grace from me, and vice versa. He's going to need to extend grace from me to me, and I'm going to need to extend grace to him. And so again, this was just something that was on my mind, because Again, for so long, I just had this very unrealistic expectation that I was just going to get this perfect knight in shining armor, and he was just going to come so well packaged, and things were just going to be great. But that's not the truth, and that's why they say, that marriages work, because you have two people coming from two different backgrounds, raised differently, handle conflict differently. Maybe even talk to love differently. Some families don't hug. Some families don't talk things out. Some families, they just do the quiet treatment until the tension blows over, and then it's like, oh, everything's okay. People are raised differently, and so you have to get to know that person. Just a disclaimer, I wanted to tell you guys, this does not mean that you're going to know everything about that person. I'm not saying, date forever, trying to figure out every little nook and cranny of that person, because you can be married to someone for 20, 30, 40 years, and there's still going to be things that you're learning about that person. People grow up in different backgrounds. People grow up and go through different situations, and even if you know about that situation, which you're not going to know about every single situation that person went through, but even if you know about the situation, you may not know how exactly it affected that person. And so again, I'm not saying learn to know everything about that person before you date them or before you marry them. I'm just saying, give yourself enough time to really get to know their habits, get to know their character, so that you know what you're getting yourself into, and you know that if, again, those things are deal breakers, or the things that you're willing to grow with them through. Because again, just the same as there's things that you need to help them grow through, there's going to be things that they're going to help you grow through. And so relationships, and again, in relationships and marriage, it's a ministry. It's showing you a mirror of who you are. When you deal with other people, you're able to see your personality, your character, your flaws. And so again, if you yield that relationship, you yield that marriage to God, and you allow God to grow both of you and refine both of you through that relationship, you come out better in the end. So again, this disclaimer was just to say, don't try to figure out every single thing, because you'll never know everything about that person. But I'm just saying, don't rush into it and then end up in a marriage with someone that you really don't know. They say that relationships are ministry. You're growing together. It's bringing out the Christ likeness in you. There's going to be times where you're going to be tested and you're going to be tried, and you have to practice and determine and make up in your mind that you're going to do better. You may not get it right the first or the second time, or maybe even the third time, but over time you're going to allow the situation, allow that relationship to refine you and to make you more Christ-like. So again, we have to go into the relationship realizing that this person is not going to be perfect, and whatever it is that they're dealing with, if they're not deal breakers, and I choose to move forward in this relationship with that person, I'm literally making that decision that whatever, good or bad, better or for worse, richer or poor, whatever that looks like, I'm willing to go the distance. I'm willing to go the journey, and it may not be easy, but I'm counting the cost now, because I see who they are. I see their flaws. I see they're good, they're bad, they're ugly. I see those things now, and that's why I love that I was listening to a video from a couple that just recently got married about a month ago, and they talked about, sometimes we say don't date, for too long, if you're in church, but the thing is, you need to date them long enough to see who they truly are. Because if you I've seen people on social media get praised because they're getting married, and 2 weeks after meeting somebody, a month after meeting someone. If that works for them, to God be the glory. But for most people, it doesn't work like that. You need to take the time and see what you're dealing with. You need to see them in different seasons of life, in different circumstances of life. See them happy, see them mad, see them frustrated, see them cry or whatever. Like, you need to really see what's in that person, because you'll never really know what it is that you're able to deal with, what their deal breakers are, what you're able to cover, if you really don't know that person. And this, again, this is something that is my opinion, and something that I feel is wisdom based on things that I've learned. If you don't agree, that's okay. Chew the meat and spit out the bones. Whatever's for you is for you. But yes, I just really wanted to come and just share that, because again, for many years I had this very unrealistic expectation of this knight in shining armor. who's going to be so perfect, and he's just going to be so wonderful, and he's going to have very few flaws, and everything is just going to be super peachy, hunky-dory, and we're going to be, right off into the sunset, happily ever after. And that's just not realistic. If you go into marriage with that unrealistic mindset, you go into a relationship with the unrealistic mindset, then you're going to be ready to jump ship very soon, because you're like, wait, this isn't what I signed up for. But if you're going into it with the right mindset and you can see it for what it really is, again, I'm not saying put up with anything, but by you being able to see things for what they really are, you're more likely to go the distance versus jumping ship, because you are now disappointed by what you quote unquote got. So yeah, that was just what I wanted to share. I hope that this was good. This actually, I was going to do a whole entire video, but as you guys can see, it ended up just being something that I guess you can say is more of a podcast type style video. I've only done this once before. This actually, the funny thing is, when I started recording this, it was just for me to put my thoughts down, put my thoughts down, speak them out, which I didn't want to write, because I was supposed to be washing dishes while I'm doing this, but I just really wanted to put my thoughts down somewhere so that I would not forget them when it's time for me to do the video. But I just decided to just keep talking and just really just make this a podcast style of video. And so I hope that this blessed somebody. I hope that this was an eye opener for people that may have unrealistic expectations. Feel free to give me, be nice. When I'm scared to say be nice, but if you have a different opinion, feel free to put that in the comments. If you agree, put that in the comments as well. But again, this was just my perspective and my opinion based on the things that I have experienced. And so again, I pray that this bless you guys. I hope to see you all soon. I will talk to you later. Bye.